Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from OK Organization 9552 and says, Am I the arsehole for kicking my wife out after she punched my mum in the face? Whew. My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is fucking dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. Up until my wife got pregnant, my mum loved her. I'm not sure what the fuck is wrong with my mum or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mum started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that, she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she was still clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mum, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not, because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers, as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it, but then I hear yelling from inside. When I walk in, my wife and my mum were screaming at each other. Apparently my mum, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mum say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slap my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking towards them yelling, "Enough!" My wife whines back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mum crying and holding her face. I tell everyone to get the fuck out. Immediately, everyone leaves and my wife just turns around the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You too, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yep." She packs up her and the baby and leaves. I text her that night and say, I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I pack. Where I'm breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a bottle." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me seem more clear. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this. She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was there. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the arsehole for making her leave after she punched my mum? I just needed some fucking space. ETA, for the record, I am team wife. My mum deserved it wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mum sent me a text saying, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened and my wife took it as me giving up on her. not defending her and throwing her and our baby out. Which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. ETA, the reason why? My dad was stupid abusive. I was beat. My sisters and brother were beat. My mum was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the fuck out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mum in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone in that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have, but in that moment I just let my emotions and fear run the whole fucking circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mum did slap her first, I guess for the same reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back on it now. She was fine following, but my mum was bleeding. Split her eyebrow open in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the arsehole. I'm going to try and kiss ass now. And it sounded like OP's already got the gist of most of the comments, and I'm guessing they're going to be arsehole. But it just sounded like the wife was at the end of her tether with your mum. You said it before that she was treating her like this for a long time now. But it just sounds like your wife is fed up with this shit and wants out of it. I sort of wonder what else she's been going through in the background, if mum's been sneaky, you know. And the moment that your wife needed support, you kicked her and your child out of the house. There's a lot of stories we talk about emotional incest, and it certainly feels like one of those stories. But Celtic Newsbook says so. To recap, you allowed your mummy to verbally abuse your pregnant wife for months, but still invited her to your wife's home. Good point. You stood there while your mother insulted and punched your wife in the abdomen, where she's been growing your child for the past 9 months. Then when your provoked wife defended herself from your bag of garbage mother, you put your wife and child out of their home so you could process. Seriously, you put your wife and infant child out of their home instead of you leaving to pull yourself together and stop being a mama's boy. You showed your wife who you truly were that night. A less than. Not a real husband, not a real father, not a real man. How is she ever supposed to unsee that? You're the arsehole, dude. A huge arsehole. Chelsea says your bitch mum is the one who got physical first. You're the arsehole. And quotes, my wife is a lot of things, but violent is not one of them. This come completely out of left field. And then says yeah, because she was defending herself from your bitch mum. And a deleted user says, and instead of thinking, holy crap, have I let it come to this? He booted his wife with an infant out onto the street. I can't see that there's any coming back from this. Nickel Pickle says processing what happened is one thing, but not supporting your wife and kicking her out is another. Your mum is out of line. If you would have checked her a long time ago, it wouldn't have got to this point. Your mum treated your wife poorly because you allowed it. Even your mum's text that she sent you shows that she thinks that it's okay to disrespect your wife. I guarantee your wife had been putting up with your mum's crap for a long time. She's had enough. You're not going to win her back. Rude Flamingo says this 100%. I understand some people need space, but kicking your wife out is a whole other spectrum of us-holishness. He could have gone for a walk and processed shit. Kicking his wife out is just... he deserves this divorce, unfortunately. He's definitely the arsehole. Cake Cookie says he didn't even rethink when he saw she was leaving with a baby. He essentially threw out his own child as well. And A Rose says, you're the arsehole. Your mother is an abusive piece of shit and your wife reacted after she was provoked. You should have shut her down when she first started acting up. You should have set boundaries. You should have protected your wife who literally just grew and birthed your child. You kicked your wife and baby out of their home. You need to process. Take a walk, go to a different room, watch a movie, see a friend. Congratulations, you ruined your marriage over several months. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Do the decent things and make separating easy. OP had some comments as additional information. OP says, my mum did hurt her. She slapped her in the stomach and my wife winced back in pain before punching her in the face, as a few other people have pointed out. I guess new mums have muscles separated in their abdomen, so given the force that my mum slapped her in the stomach, like a little bit below the ribcage, full backhanded slap, which could be heard from the door. Phooey, I guess it's comparable to hitting my wife in her internal organs, because her stomach muscles aren't healed. I just learned that. Opie also says, I don't know, I can't justify it. I let my own fear run the situation. Violence scares the shit out of me. I watched my mum get beat for years. My siblings and I were beat too, but we weren't hospitalized. My wife punching my mum just immediately made the room spin, and I wasn't thinking about the consequences of my actions from that point forward. Opie continues, I'm fully aware that my niece is fat. I'm assuming my mum made her that way. She lives with her. She did it with all her kids growing up. We were all fat Fs because she overfed us, i.e. fat kids are happy kids. None of the night made sense. Opie says, starting to see that. My wife sent me a text about 10 minutes ago saying, look up emotional incest, with no context. Definitely describes what my mum's doing. I did completely block her, but it won't help my case. So, 2 months later, the response post comes from the wife, which says, I'm still grieving at the loss of my marriage. But my friend had notified me about my husband's post that had too many specific details that were hard to ignore. To clarify, this is my first time on Reddit. I read my soon-to-be ex-husband's post and wanted to give my side of the story and include details he didn't provide in his post. For those who hadn't read it, long story short, my husband kicked me out of the house after his mother had physically slapped my stomach in front of him, and I punched her in self-defense. I love my husband dearly, but his lack of action regarding his mother's behavior was extremely disgusting to say the least. I tolerated his mum's behavior long enough until I couldn't take it anymore, as he had overlooked his mum's behavior over and over again that I finally had enough. I was still recovering after giving birth to his child when his mum slapped my stomach. My husband exaggerated when he said it wasn't a hard slap. The slap itself was hard enough to be heard by everyone in the room. I'd lost it at this point when his mother slapped my stomach with a turd-eating smirk that wasn't visible from my husband's point of view. At least that's what my husband claimed. I had a mental breakdown when my husband told me to leave after kicking everyone out of the house. You should have seen his face when he told me to get out with a straight face and without hesitation. Our baby was crying at this point before I left, and I couldn't do anything but cry that night after I went to stay with my mother. His mother sent me a text mockingly saying, I'm going to file charges against you for assault, you fat little whore. Now stay the fuck out of our lives. She ended the text with a smiley face at the end. I was livid and decided I did not want to be associated with this family anymore and served my husband divorce papers. And as you can guess, he didn't take it well and tried to get me to reconsider. I told him that he overlooked his mother's behavior one too many times, and I was done with him and his inability to establish boundaries with his mother. I recommended setting boundaries, but he didn't think it was necessary, even after I told him throughout the pregnancy about the nasty names his mother called me when he wasn't around. And he always brushed it off. Even though he did tell his mum to stop, she would continue this behavior, after a short pause for a while. Before I left after handing him divorce papers, he begged me for another chance and told me he'd cut contact with his mother permanently. I told him that he is sorry now that I handed him divorce papers and that it was too late to act now, that I decided I wanted out of the marriage. I told him I loved him so much that he should look at it as a sign that if I didn't, then I would have divorced him long ago because he didn't stand up for me multiple times. And I let his mother's snarky comments and behavior slide at my mental expense. I told him he needed help with the trauma because I understand that he is dealing with trauma since he already mentioned my abusive stepdad, but didn't even realize that his mother hadn't gotten him help for his trauma and he is still being affected in his adulthood. What I can't understand is why he didn't leave if he needed some space instead of being such a heartless bastard and kicking our child out with me. I've been ignoring his texts and calls ever since, and I'm waiting for a divorce hearing. Something that I wanted to point out is that his mother had attributed to his niece's weight gain, since she lives with my husband's sister to save money. I once again told my husband about his niece's weight gain that is concerning that she weighs 190 pounds at such a young age, and she was indeed not that weight before. On the day of the incident, I was making the niece's second portion of food, and then my husband's mother came towards me and snatched the plate out of my hands and said, I'll do it myself, let me take care of it. And when I tried to take the plate back, his mother said, I know what to fucking do. You don't know how to properly feed someone as healthy as my grandchild. And I was shocked that she thinks her grandchild's weight was normal for her age. I couldn't take this harassment or abuse any longer, and my breaking point was reached when he kicked me and our child out of the house. Now I need to do what's right for our child because she doesn't need to be in a toxic household where she has to witness the drama going on. My soon-to-be ex-husband wants us to do marriage counselling, to which I've refused to do so because I'm done with him. I started to feel slightly guilty with his begging and gaslighting. I just want to be done with him. I've blocked him as recommended by my lawyer, but he keeps reaching out through his other family members and siblings. What should I do to make him go away until the divorce hearing? And just a couple of top comments from that post. One says, I read your husband's original post. He was very clearly the arsehole. Your post only confirms this. As far as your question about him getting to leave you alone until the hearing, ask your divorce attorney if they can send him his family members a cease and desist letter, or send it to his divorce attorney. Designer Carpenter says, I remember telling your ex that he was the arsehole. His number one job as a husband is to stick up for his wife. If my mother had slapped my wife, that would be the last time she saw either of us or our children. But now, what do you guys make of this situation? Do you ever think there's any recovering from this? It certainly doesn't seem that way with what the wife's saying, but let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It doesn't have an update as yet. It's from Bubbly Ducky 25, who says, Am I the arsehole for telling everyone how mother-in-law acted at our wedding? Throwaway husband on Reddit. I, 26 female, got married to Jack, 26 male, in August. We've been together since we were 15. Jack and I decided to have an immediate family-only wedding. It was extremely small. My dad and brother, his parents, and sister/husband. My dad paid for everything. Mother-in-law and father-in-law asked if they can stay with us the week of the wedding. We say sure. They show up and they brought mother-in-law's sister, husband, and niece, 14. The 5 of them are in the entry of the house and expect to stay with us this week. I'm annoyed, especially since they weren't invited, but I say nothing. Mother-in-law walks right past me and turns to me and asks if we invited Jack's cousin. We will call her Jane. I tell her no, we just invited you guys and my family. The reason Jane is not invited is because she's drama, wore white to Jack's sister's wedding and made a scene. The day before the wedding, I get up and notice my car is missing. I had a last minute things to get, and it turns out mother-in-law helped herself to it, so she can go shopping at the mall. I call Jack, and he calls his mum. She returns the car 4 hours later. The mall is 15 minutes away from our house. I was able to get everything I needed and head home. When I get home, Jack pulls me aside and tells me mother-in-law yelled at him for having a camera in the house. We have a camera facing the back door. We check it to make sure the dogs aren't outside and it's locked. Either way, it's not hidden and it's in our home. To me, that was sus, so I check the footage and hear how mother-in-law and aunt are absolutely berating me in our house. I show it to Jack and he says to say nothing. The day of the wedding arrives. Mother-in-law opens our bedroom door asking for an iron. I go grab one for her. I close the door and start getting ready. I have a picture of my mum, passed away, next to the mirror, and I'm just in my head about it all. Then mother-in-law opened the door and asks for an ironing curler. I get her one. I close the door and lock it. I call my dad to linger outside the door. The limo arrives to pick me and my husband up to bring us to the church. Before I get out the door, mother-in-law, father-in-law, aunt, uncle, niece get into the limo and open the special bottle that my dad kept for his wedding. So now it's me, Jack, and all his family in the limo on the way to the church, like a clown car. They drink the whole bottle, which I wanted to share with my dad and brother. At the reception, Jack and I catch mother-in-law going through the wedding envelopes to see what everyone gave. She is pulling money out and telling Jack his sister is cheap. Again, I say nothing. The last straw was when I looked around and mother-in-law and aunt were missing. I find them hiding, calling Jane, who didn't even know about the wedding, to tell her she wasn't invited. Lastly, I got my photos back from our photographer. Aunt, mother-in-law, uncle are doing the peace sign behind our heads in everyone's group picture. I told my friends what happened because it bothers me, but my husband is saying I am the arsehole here because I shouldn't tell anyone. Am I the arsehole? What is going on? I might have to title this video the Arsehole Mother-in-Law Edition or Emotional Incest Edition. These people turned up to your wedding, caused an absolute shit show. They wanted that attention. Give them the damn attention. I know it brings additional drama to your life, but I mean, somewhere along the line, you need to put your foot down. Them getting into the car with you and drinking the champagne. Holy moly, the absolute audacity. They should have been kicked, their asses should have been kicked out there and then. You need to be having a strong conversation with your husband for absolutely not saying anything against his family at the same time as well. These just sound like absolute, just a bunch of assholes, man, honestly. What goes through their head to think any of that's acceptable? Firstly, turning up with extra people to a wedding when only a couple of you was invited. Berating you in your house secretly behind your back, getting into the limo, drinking champagne. Ugh, horrible people. But Grand Beat Hank says you and your new husband need to have a face-to-face meeting and get on the same page about how to handle his relatives in the future, because this is only the beginning of the meddling. I emphasize his, because it is my firm belief each partner in a marriage should be the one who handles their own family members. So I hope your new husband grows a pair and can do the job. Not the arsehole for needing to vent, as your husband would just tell you to be quiet. Space Jesus is here says, oh boy, you need to deal with this ASAP before your husband thinks this is how it's going to be. The solution to his awful mother is not to keep it a secret. It's your husband to tell her to get in line or to not visit. If you don't fix this now, your life is going to be just like all the miserable people on r/justnomother-in-law. Not the arsehole, but you need to get your husband to set and enforce clear boundaries with his mummy before it's too late. My couch says not the arsehole. Is it too late for annulment? Husband taking crazy family side is a huge red flag. Hope you got safety gear because you're going to be rolling this rock uphill your entire marriage if you don't grow yourself a nice new shiny spine or if hubby continues to choose them over you. Best Pomo says not the arsehole. If your husband does not support you when his family berates you, is he truly on your side? Talk to your husband and make the boundaries clear. Otherwise, along the road, there'll be a lot of blurred lines and them walking all over you while your husband tells you to keep it quiet and brush it under the carpet. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? I just got this vision of my head of them all piling into this limousine and helping themselves to the champagne, and the bride and groom just sat there like, what the fuck? Let us know your thoughts down. Oh, my word. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.